Hello and Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm here to have a quick chat about a couple of utilities I'm going to be releasing for users of classic Macs. So let's get into them. This is all within my usual experience and I'll show you how they fit within it. The first utility is TLS Bomber. And I've done a bit of prep work here, but this is essentially a proxy that allows you to run HTTPS websites on an old Mac. It's based on bare SSL, and before I get started I'll just let you know that I've added a few features. So one of them is risky mode. Essentially, some of the crypto behind this is not perfect, and rather than, look, I want to get the most coverage of websites here by making a couple of compromises. I figure no one's going to be doing any banking on here, and they probably can't anyway without HTML5 and modern JavaScript, but I've still made this an opt-in option for risky mode for that reason. In short, some certificates are accepted that probably shouldn't be. But again, I figure we're in a scenario where it's still going to be an encrypted stream for the actual data you're sending and receiving, and it's unlikely anybody's going to be doing anything secure on their old Mac. Please don't if you're using this. The next thing is readability mode, which we'll get into. That's probably a nice little segue. So it basically hijacks the HTML stream that we're dealing with here, takes out a lot of the things like JavaScript, frames, and makes you a more readable product. All right, well, let's get into the product. I've already preloaded a couple of websites, so in Class Seller, this works with. That's probably the neatest solution. And I guess an obvious question is here, should pop up if we do a new. What advantage does this have over crypto Ancient? Because yes, there is a solution that does this already. It may well be a better solution. I don't know. I haven't actually been able to get it working. I'm sure others can. But part of the thing here is that it requires a virtual machine called PowerMark 10, which, to my understanding, runs Unix in the background on top of OS 9, and that then gives you the power to run a Unix app called Crypto Ancient. So this is a native app. Getting it working, or getting mine working, is basically the same setup steps as this Crypto Ancient. Let's take you through them quickly. So in the proxy 127.0.0.1, port 8080, and then there's this cute little setting that we'll be going into. You can read this yourself, but basically it's probably worth explaining. There's a nice little hack that the developer of this has implemented, where if you enter HTTPS into the URL bar, the proxy then hijacks it, does all of the work in receiving HTTPS, but then it serves back an HTTP site to the website, to the browser, right? And if you try that with Internet Explorer or iCab or something, it's not going to be happy. It's going to throw an error, because that's, I presume it's a pretty big indication that someone's done a man in the middle on you. You've asked for a secure site, and now you're being sent an insecure one with different code. So this is a feature that you'll need to enable. Right, so my proxy, I've preloaded this because load times can be a little bit slow. I've also, look, I'm from Australia, some crazy stuff's been going on. I don't want to get political. Let's just go straight to the news content below that. Unfortunately, no Merry Christmas things yet. That would have been cool. So you can see it's an HTTPS site, and we're viewing this in the readability mode. So instead of having frames, instead of having pop-ups and the like, we've just got headings, clickable headings, text, a summary of the article, and then picture. Big pictures, but that's it, big cake, bickies, salad. And this is a good web browser. I, really put my hat off to the guy who did all of the porting here. I think this is the most complete web solution. But I've made another one that I think I should talk you through, and why have I done that. So we look at Classilla, that's actually reading the HTML, right? You've got proper HTML being read, not HTML5, and that's a whole other can of worms. If someone wanted to port over a modern version of Mozilla, great, with modern JavaScript, HTML5, it's a big job. We're not working with Unix where you can just sort of port it over, have all the tools. You also don't have a modern networking stack. So there's a lot of things that I've learned about in making this, about how OS 9 is just, it's an old OS essentially. You can't just easily import features that one would take for granted in the modern age. So that's why I made this. Instead of this reading HTML5 or 4 or 3, it just makes a text document. So it reads whatever it's given the HTML, strips everything out of it, and just gives you a heading, turns that into a link if there's a link associated, which is, it doesn't come for free, by the way, you've got to make that up yourself. And gives you a picture which it can resize. So that was one of the big things I had here, right? Is that with Classilla, I can't hijack things like what size will the image be. I couldn't have as much control over which code and which heuristics we can use to try and make text, because essentially that's what you're doing. You're taking code, you're turning it into text. Whether or not that's a compliant HTML interpreter is a different matter, but it doesn't have to be, is what I figured. It's easier for it not to be in this case, with my limited coding ability. So this is what we've got. It's not as quick, it's not as cool as Classilla, but I figure it's something I can update over time if people need features. It's also, in my opinion, a bit more readable because you're not getting those huge images. You're getting things that are scaled down, and you can break a few rules along the way. Right. That's probably all I need to talk about. This fits in with what I think is a really good browsing experience. Why would you do it today? Well, as you can see, I'm into browsing the web like it's 1999. I've got a hotline here. I can still chat with people, download files. Great. I've got ICQ working here via Escargo's server. So great. I can chat with people. These are not my friends, by the way. I don't have any friends on here, and no one's ever online. But if people wanted to chat with me, they could. I can stream music. This is actually audio on it. Looks like Mac Ast Lite. I've made a skin, may or may not share that at some point, but I like that skin. I like Audion's playing, so that's why I do that. So I've got this whole experience. What I couldn't do is read the news. And I want to read the news like I would have in 1999, or blogs, anything like that, without everything being spat at me, without me having to get outraged or have opinions. I can just read it. If I don't want it, I don't have to click on the links. There's no engagement. I can't engage because I don't have JavaScript or forms support here, and it's not a bad life. So that's what that's the experience I'm sharing with others, and it's going to be on my website. It's also going to be on the Macintosh Garden. So yeah, do hope a few people get involved. Hope some others can get some value out of this. Let's just let this load actually, because it can give you a bit of an idea of how a website loads on this. So it's a little bit slow. And to explain what's going on here, you get the encrypted image, you identify it in the stream, and then you send it here. QuickTime then has to have a look at it. It says, look, this is a JPEG, and then it resizes it. I've set a max image height, so it will then scale it proportionately. And using Quick Draw, it will make a heading. So it'll do text, it'll make an image, and it'll make text again. So that's why you probably notice when I click this link, what you're getting is, a bit of a refresh going on. It's not an ideal solution, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement here over time, depending on how much I use it, whether people get really interested. So, but it's a starting point. Maybe it'll encourage other people to make awesome TLS proxies that put mine to shame. And I'd love that if someone did that, I really would. But for now, this gives me the experience I want, and I'm really happy to share it with others. So Merry Christmas, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much.